For those of you that this might be your first time joining us, my name is Dan Handford. I'm one of the managing partners of a group called PassiveInvesting.com. I'm also the founder of the Multifamily Investor Nation. And just to briefly talk to you about PassiveInvesting.com, we're a multifamily real estate investment firm. We do a lot of private equity with individual investors and investing alongside us in each one of our assets. Somebody is saying my volume is a little low. So can you guys hear me okay? Is this all right? If you guys can hear me okay, just give me a yes, 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 or a thumbs up, just so I know everything's coming in clear. Sometimes an individual person's microphone might be a little bit low themselves, or at least their speakers. Good. All right. So everybody else is saying everything is sounding pretty good. So that is good there. So PassiveInvesting.com. If you want more information about us and what we do, we work with private individual investors, and they invest alongside us in our multifamily real estate assets. So you can go here and find out more information about us. If you want a little bit more about myself and my background, you can click on my name right here, Dan Handford, on the Meet the Team page. There's a little video here that we did that explains to you a little bit about myself. I am married, have 4 children, 3 girls and a boy, ages all under 10 right now. So I have a 9-year-old girl, 3-year-old boy, excuse me, a 9-year-old girl, 3-year-old girl, 2-year-old girl, and then I have a 8-year-old boy. So we live and work here in Columbia, South Carolina. Oddly enough, I don't invest here in Columbia, South Carolina. You could obviously ask me for reasons why I don't, but I actually live here and I don't invest here. So our group is primarily acquiring assets in the Carolinas, but also in the Atlanta, Georgia market, Jacksonville market. We've been looking inside of Orlando, but right now with the COVID-19, it's been hit pretty hard. So we haven't really been going after anything in Orlando right now. But in the Carolinas, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina. So you can find out more information. If you want to join us on one of our future offerings, you can certainly do that as a passive investor. On the top right-hand corner of the screen, there's a button here that says Join the Passive Investing Club. You can click on that, and I'll jump on a phone call with you, discuss your investment goals, and see if we are a right fit for you when it comes to your investments. All right, so let's talk about this topic today, which is finding investors to raise capital for apartment syndication. So one of the things I want to talk about first, before we dive too deep into this topic, is about something that I call the Investor Triad. And I know for those of you who have seen me speak in person, and even seen me or heard me on one of these webinars, I've mentioned this before when we talk about investor relationships, but I know there's a lot of new people on here. And so I want to go over this with you so that you can understand a little bit about my mindset when it comes to investor relations. So what I want you to do right now is most of my presentation, I don't do a screen share, or I don't do a PowerPoint or anything like that. I talk off of my own head, right? So off of some of the notes that I have and things like that. It's just the way I like to do things. I don't like to go off of a PowerPoint too much, and I feel like it's a little bit more engaging than just trying to read off of some boring slides. So I don't usually use any slides, and I think slides can sometimes also be distracting, even though some people might say it's easy to follow along that way. You can always watch the video again if you miss something or something like that. But I do want you to go ahead and get a piece of paper out, blank piece of paper, and a pen or a Sharpie or something like that. And I'm going to draw something on the screen for you. I'm going to use what we call our whiteboard on here. And I want you to take out that piece of paper and follow along with me as I do this. So on the piece of paper, what I would like for you to do is I would like for you to draw a really big triangle on here. Okay, just like that. Now I will tell you, like I usually tell people when I do this, is that I'm not a very good artist. Okay, so I don't have one of those little mats that I can draw this on or anything like that. So it's just me trying to use my mouse. So, but I want to make sure that you can actually see this. So I can make sure that you guys can actually see this. For those of you that can see this, I would like for you to go ahead and raise your hand. So there should be a little button on your screen there in the bar. It says raise hand. Just raise your hand. Make sure that you can actually, I have this visual for you so you can actually see this, the little red triangle that should be on your screen. So just raise your hand right now. All right, got several folks on here. Looks like most people aren't paying attention, either that or they are out going to get a piece of paper. So, all right, got a few more people raising their hands there. All right, good. So in the middle of this, I want you to write the word investor, and then I want you to write the word triad. So investor and then triad, okay? I'm going to say investor triad. So a couple people are saying, cannot see, can't see, cannot see, can't see. Whiteboard only, no triangle. I don't see it. Can't see a triangle. Don't see anything. Huh. Well, it's coming through on here, which is quite interesting. Hopefully you can see it on my screen now. But all right, so let me do this. Let me stop my share real quick, and I will reshare the white screen. So there. How about that? So when I share this screen now, can you see the triangle now? So you should now be able to see the triangle. Okay, good. And if I draw over here off to the left-hand side, can you see me scribbling off to the left side? Left side scribble, say left yes, left yes, left yes. So I know you can see it. Sorry about this. It usually works. So I've never have had any issues with it. So glad we can try that out. So this is what we call the Investor Triad, okay? And on this Investor Triad, on the top of this, I want you to write the word no, K-N-O-W, okay? On the bottom left-hand corner, I want you to write the word like, okay? No, like, and then the last one, can anybody guess it? That's right. That's right. It is trust. So trust is going to be down here, right? This trust. So this is that know, like, and trust. Now, quick question for you before we move forward. And for those of you who are watching the recorded version afterwards, I want you to think about this and pause it before I give you the answer. So between know, like, and trust, that's what we call the Investor Triad. With know, like, and trust, of those three things, which one do you think is the most important? Know, like, or trust? Okay. Which one do you think it is? Is it know? Is it like? Or is it trust? So just kind of type into that chat box there. Let me know. Do you think it's know, like, or trust? So most of you are on here saying trust, 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 trust. A few people on here are saying no, 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 no. And so far, I've only had one like. So one like so far, and the rest of them are trust, 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 trust. Now, let me blow your mind for just a minute, okay? Not necessarily blow your mind, but it's really more of kind of changing your mindset a little bit about how you think about this whole triad, this triangle of know, like, and trust. So in order for an investor to actually get to the point of being able to wire money to you to be able to invest in one of your properties, what you have to do is you have to meet each one of these three things. You have to get them to know you. You have to get them to like you, and you have to get them to the point of being able to like you so much that they actually trust you, right? There's those three things. If one of those are missing, it's not going to work, right? But what I will tell you is that the most important thing that you need to focus on is the one at the very top, and that's no. Now, the reason why is because if nobody has an opportunity to actually get to know you or even hear about you, they never have that opportunity to be able to know it, to be able to, they never have that opportunity to be able to like you enough to be able to make that determination as to whether or not they trust you, right? And so that's one of the main missing pieces. So many people try to focus on that likeness and trust, but they don't even get people to know them yet, right? So there's a certain number of people right now in your circle that actually know you, and they're all at different points in time and different stages, liking you and then getting to the point of trusting you, right? And it depends on on different things as well. So they might know, like, and trust you as a friend, right? Or let's just talk about family, right? The family might know, like, and trust you as a brother or as a sister or as a mother or as a father, but do they really know, like, and trust you enough? Not only enough, but do they know, like, and trust you as a multifamily real estate investor? Are they going to send you money to invest into it? Now, it might not necessarily be just that they don't know, like, and trust you. This know, like, and trust is not just for you, right? Or your group. It's actually for you and your group, but it's also for the investment or the deal itself. And so if an investor does not know, like, and trust the deal, then they're not going to invest in it. And so there's multiple know, like, and trust triads that are going on at any given point in time. Obviously today we're focusing on the investor themselves and having them like you as a group or as a person individually to be able to invest. But there's a lot of operators out there. I don't want to say a lot. There are several operators out there that I really like. I do actually know, like, and trust them a lot, but I don't sometimes I don't invest with them because I don't know, like, and trust their deal that they're putting together. Not because that they're bad, but I don't like the market. I don't like some of the underwrite. I don't like some of the, the asset itself. So there's certain things like that that I still have to know, like, and trust, right, in order to invest. And that's how investors think. You can't just think, oh, this person's going to know, like, and since this person knows me and likes me and trusts me, that they're going to invest. If you try to go after an asset that they don't want to be in, right? So there's multiple types of this investor triad thought process going on at any given time. Now, today we're going to be talking about the top one here. This is going to be this no portion. So we're going to talk to you about a few things that we do whenever we get investor leads into our website. And then I'm also going to talk to you about what we do when we, I'm going to talk about 5 things, what we call them, 5 outside the box ideas on where to find high net worth investors. Now, I did a YouTube video a couple months back on raising capital. I gave a lot of different ideas, probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 different ideas in different places you can find investors, high net worth investors. And so you can go to our YouTube channel and you can type in just raising capital, and you'll find a couple of different videos on there that we've done on at different points that talk about, where to raise, how to find investors. But I've actually got 5. I will say 3 of them are new. 2 of them are ones that I've used before, but I still think are really good outside the box ideas that a lot of people got a lot of value from. But I have 3 new ideas that I haven't really heard anybody talk about yet, and we're going to talk about them today on this webinar so you can actually understand those. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. And then we'll touch briefly on how to stay compliant in raising money as well. So somebody is asking me for my YouTube channel. Let me type it in here and see if I can find it. So here we go. Here is the URL. I'm actually talking on it right now. There we go. So for those of you who are joining us live, for those of you who are watching the recording, you're probably watching this on YouTube, so you can just subscribe to the YouTube channel. We release videos every single week. I'm actually in September. I've acquired, I'm in the process of acquiring a building, a 3,000 square foot building that has some warehouse attached to it, and we're going to be finally putting together a video recording studio, which will be what we're going to be broadcasting these from now on. So I'm hoping to kind of have some additional technology, like a nice little whiteboard. Instead of doing this on the screen, I'm going to have an actual whiteboard that I'll be able to present with, and they're going to have a nice, video recording studio built out in that space. That'll hopefully be, it'll be acquired. We'll be closing on it probably the middle of September of 2020. And then probably in another, 30 to 60 days later, we'll have the studio completely built out. So you'll start to see some additional things there. So I'm pretty excited about it. And thankfully, it's only about 7 minutes down the road from my house. So when we do different events here, I'm hoping we'll have enough space there to be able to do events there. And we'll be able to, maybe come over to my house and have dinner and, play in the pool and do all kinds of fun stuff. So anyway, that's to the future. But I'm not even sure why I got onto that. Oh, so we're talking about the Multifamily Investor Nation. I don't know why I got on that. I got a little bit of sidetracked there. But anyway, that's the YouTube channel. So you guys can subscribe to that and be prepared for some additional videos that are coming out. When you go there, there's a search box. You can type into there, just raising capital, and you will see other items that will come up. So let me actually see if I can do a demonstration of that. Let's see. Let me just change my screen share here. So I'm done with the other screen. Let me just go over here. Share. All right. So here's the screen here. Just typed it in there. For those of you joining us live, feel free to go there, subscribe to the channel, and then you can see I just typed into the chat box, the little search box to the right, just raising capital, and it came up for these different options that we've actually done on raising capital. There's also a couple other ones that looks like in there as well. So quite a few we've actually done on raising capital. I will type this into the chat box, this little link, just so it's actually a search query link. So it'll go straight to this page that we've actually went on to. So you can certainly do that as well. All right. So let's talk about this process for handling incoming leads, because it doesn't, whenever you find investors, you want to make sure that you actually follow up with them fast enough and efficiently enough to be able to make sure that you don't lose them, right? Because if somebody fills out a form on your website and it takes you a couple of days or a week to follow up with them, it's too late, right? You need to be responding to them right away. As a matter of fact, I had somebody go to my website just before I got on the phone call here, and my assistant already called them. They're already on the schedule, and they're locked and loaded for a phone call with me next Tuesday. So I do my phone calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my assistant schedules them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I also have the website. I mean, sometimes if we can't get a hold of them over the phone, we'll send them a link. So what happens is if somebody goes to the website, I told you already once, they go to this passiveinvesting.com. They go to the top right-hand corner, click on the Join Passive Investing Club. When they click on that button, they're going to go to this form here. And on this form, they're going to fill it out. That's going to go directly to my assistant. My assistant is going to pick up the phone and try to call them because we asked for their phone number here. And inside their phone number, they are going to, with their phone number, they're going to be able to, we're going to be able to pick up the phone and call them. And so she calls them, sees if they're available. If not, she'll leave them a voicemail and tell them that she called, and then that she's going to send them an email with a link to my Calendly. And on Calendly, it's really neat because they know exactly when I'm available on my calls. And let me actually see if I can pull up an example of this to show you kind of what this looks like. So right now, my availability, I clicked the wrong button there. My availability right now, as you can see here on my investor link, I schedule these as 15-minute phone calls, and then it says Dan will call you at your directly at your scheduled time. Now that's an important piece, which I'm going to touch on in just a moment. But you can see here, this is August. My Thursdays are filled up right now. Got a few times available on on Tuesday next week. So it's like I got 2 times available there. And then on the 25th, I have 4 times available. So they go there and they click on that little button right there and confirm, and it'll ask them to fill out their information on here. And I even asked them, when they fill this out, we would like to start mailing you our passive investor newsletter each month to your mailbox. What is your physical mailing address? And so this is actually a printed newsletter. I don't have any copies here in front of me on my office here. I have some in the other room, but it's a printed high quality newsletter we send out to them, and we ask them to be able to type in their address right there. So they type in their address and can put in their information, and we'll start to send them our newsletter. One of the things we try to do is we try to send them their first copy before I get on the phone call with them if we have time. So the very same day we get that, we try to send that out in the mail to them so they can receive our last couple of copies of our newsletter so they can start to kind of see what it's all about. So that's kind of what this looks like. You can also use other services, but I like Calendly because it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward to be able to do that. And this form right here goes directly into our CRM system. So it goes directly into ActiveCampaign. We use ActiveCampaign to manage this entire process and keeping track of our investors and kind of where we are as far as following up with them and our mailing list and our email list and our accreditation list and stuff like that. So it's all included in there. And then once I get on a phone call with them, I will schedule them. I will send them an email, usually with our most recent offering that we've done. It's already closed out. I just tell them, hey, I want to send this to you so you can take a look at it, see how we structure things, see how we put them together. And then we can kind of jump onto the phone call, or, you can just reply to the email that I send you and just ask any questions that you might have. And I use Outlook. And so inside of Outlook with Office 365, it has templates that you can put into them for emails. And so when I do that, it's the same email I send out almost to every investor because it's the same, stuff that I'm sending out. So I can just click on my view templates, just click the template that I want to send to them, and it automatically fills out my email, type in their name, send it off. Can do it in a matter of seconds after I get off the phone call with somebody. Now, one of the other things that I do is I will program when I travel around the country. I haven't been doing much of that with COVID, but when I travel around the country, I take my cell phone and I make sure I program their name into my phone with their phone number. And then in the company field, what I like to do is I like to put in the word investor. So I know that next time I look at it, it says investor. I know who it is. And then I'll put next to it the city of where they're located because I'm getting their address. So I know that. And then if I don't really know for sure exactly if I'm going to be searching for that city, like for example, I was actually took a vacation recently down to Tampa, Florida area. Well, I wouldn't put in there. So there's a city there near there called Riverview, Florida. So I wouldn't put in Riverview, Florida only. I'd put Riverview, Florida, and then parentheses, I put the word Tampa, which is the next largest city where I might actually be traveling to. And so that way, when I travel to Tampa, I can pull up all of my investors who are in the vicinity of the Tampa area. And that way I can reach out to them directly and say, hey, I'm going to be traveling here. Love to meet you up for coffee or dinner. And if I have a lot of investors in the market, like I did in Tampa, I actually just put together a couple of investor dinners where I had multiple investors that I was meeting with at the same time. Again, that's all part of that investor relationship and that investor management process. And last week, we actually did a webinar on that whole investor management process. I know I'm kind of, overlapping just a little bit here with today's topic, but I think it'd be important for you to go there and actually watch that again, because if you didn't watch it, you need to watch it, because it's important to understand how to manage your investors once you actually have obtained them in your list. So here is a link to the investor management webinar. So I type it into those for those of you who are watching live. For those of you who are watching the recording, you can just go to the prior webinars and look up the one on investor management. And if you want to just search for it on the YouTube channel, you can do that as well. Just type in investor management, and you should be good when it comes to that. So you're good. All right. So let me see here. All right. Let's talk about these 5 outside the box ideas. Okay. I'm gonna give you these 5 ideas, and then I'll talk about the staying compliant, and then I'll open it up for questions. So if you guys have some questions today, you can certainly type them into the chat box, or if you want to type them into the Q&A box, you can do that as well. And then we'll go from there. So let's talk about these 5 ideas. So I'm going to talk about 5 ideas that I think that you should consider. Now, all of these you might not be able to do because of financial resources, or maybe your own kind of position of where you are right now in life doesn't allow you to be able to do certain things like this. But the first one I have on here is volunteering for various board positions in different nonprofits around your local community. Well, a lot of these local communities are looking for these board members, and other board members that are on there are are many times high net worth investors or high net worth people that could potentially be an investor for your opportunities. And so if you can volunteer to be on one of those boards, that would be really, really, really good idea. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, what can I provide as a board member to these different groups? Well, a lot of these nonprofits and these groups will have what we call a board member in training, or somebody who is maybe just interested in kind of seeing how the organization works, how the board meetings are run. And instead of just calling them up a random person and saying, hey, I want to be a board member of your organization, please let me know if an opening opens up. You could say something on the lines of, I really like your organization. I really like what you stand for. I'd love to be able to participate in some form or fashion in your organization. But one of the things I'd love to do first, if you're open to it, is be able to sit in one of your board meetings and just kind of learn and observe and really absorb the information. So number one, you're showing that you want to be able to help out without just saying, hey, I want to be a board member. But number two, you're surrounding yourself with those other board members that could be potential investors. And those board members, when you're surrounding yourself with them, guess what? They're going to get to know you, right? Because if you're in the room, they're going to know you're there, and you'll have opportunities to be able to strike conversations with them. But realize this, though, folks, that it's not investor relations. Is not just, hey, here I am. This is what I do. Give me money, right? That's not investor relations. It's the word relation means relationships, right? So you have to start to build relationships with people. So you don't just go out of the bat and say, hey, I'm an investor. I own a real estate investment firm. I want you to invest in my deals. You need to start to learn more about them, build that rapport, build that credibility. It might be multiple times you're meeting with them before they get to that point of raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm interested, right? But it's having those conversations and starting those conversations with people that could be potential investors, which is where you need to be. That's where you need to position yourself at right now. So that's number one. I wouldn't say it's like number one. These are no particular order. I'll tell you which one I'm working on right now, which is starting to be fairly fruitful for us so far. But I'll leave that one to the very end of what we're working on right now. So second thing is you could actually join a country club, right? So a country club, like a golf club. And sometimes they're not usually too crazy expensive depending on where you're located, but joining a country club, or maybe not even just joining, but hanging out around country clubs. And, if you this option is, like I said, probably only really available for somebody who actually enjoys golfing or likes to golf or is good at golfing. Right. And so hanging out around country clubs, being around those people allows you to be able to start those conversations with high net worth investors, and allows you to be able to find those people that might be potential investors. But these are not going to be people you're just going to meet one time, and then like next week you're going to put money into a deal. So there's two things that you should always be doing at any given point in time, whether you have a deal or not. Number one is finding investors. Number two is finding the next deal. But you don't want to find the next deal and then start looking for investors. You're too late, right? Depending on what kind of SEC registration you're trying to use, there could also be some compliance reasons for that too, where you actually want to get to know them first before you actually have an opportunity or an offering. So country clubs are another way. The third way is executive clubs. So there are many executive clubs that are around the country. And, until a couple of years ago, I didn't even know what they were, right? But there are high-level executives, whether they be business owners or high-paid professionals that join these exclusive executive clubs. And a lot of times you have to know somebody in order to get invited to be there. So hanging out at country clubs and these board positions, most likely those people are connected in some sort of an executive club, and they can invite you to be a member, right? To be able to be a part of that executive club. And there's networking opportunities, there's different socials that they put together, and it allows you to have that opportunity to be able to be in front of other people that are high level executives. And so those executive clubs are important. There's one that I'm a part of called Club Corp, CLUBCORP, Club Corp. And you can go to clubcorp.com. There's over like 300 clubs across the country. And the nice thing about it is that I'm a member of my local home club here, but I can go and visit any of the clubs around the country. So if I travel to Tampa or Orlando or California or wherever, I can actually take an investor to one of these executive clubs if I wanted to, and take them to have them out there for dinner or coffee, or meet multiple investors up there, because they don't have to be a member in order for me to bring other guests with me. So I can bring guests with me, which is really, really cool. It's a nice little feature when you're traveling. They also have lots of different golf clubs and things like that are associated with it, and you get perks and benefits and things like that for being a part of that membership. The fourth thing that I had written down here was boating. And when I say boating, I'm more like talking about like if you have like a nice lake or a deep sea fishing area or something like that, where you have a marina that has like a boat club. Boat clubs are very similar to these executive clubs, but they're people who are who like to enjoy boats, and they have different networking events and things like that, and different socials for people around boats, right? Well, most people that have a boat, not most, but a lot of people have really nice boats, typically have money, right? And if they have money to buy a boat, it's likely that they might have money to buy a share in your investments, right? And some of the properties that you're putting together. And so being able to be a part of boating, and not just like maybe not even being a part of a boat club, but just like hanging around people that have nice boats, right? And I know that might be kind of abstract to kind of think about that, but you have to put yourself, when you're thinking about the high net worth investors, you have to put yourself in their mindset and go, where would high net worth investors hang out? What would they be doing? How would they be spending their money? How would they be spending their time outside of work, right? Obviously you can go to their place of work and find them, but that might be a little harder to do. But you want to be able to go to places where you know that they're going to be, so you can start those conversations and actually have that interaction with them, so you can start to get them to know you, so they can start to like you and eventually trust you. And then what's nice about that investor triad that I didn't mention, and I'm going to bring this up here and just bring this up here again. I'm going to see if my whiteboard saved itself. It did. So what's a nice thing about this on this Investor Triad, which I have not mentioned yet, is the fact that the journey that the investor goes through is they actually will go in this process of knowing somebody, right? They'll start here, and then they'll get to know you, and that's when they actually start to have an opinion as to whether or not they like you, and then eventually get to the point of being able to trust you. But what about this leg here? Which direction do you think this is going? This is going this way. And this is actually where the power comes in, because this is when you start to get referrals, right? When you start to get referrals, those people that are referred to you typically jump from this knowing all the way down here to trust. And so because the likeness and the trust is actually inherently built into the referral itself, the person who's referring them. So this is a very powerful piece of this entire investor triad, is this ability to be able to get to the point of knowing someone to the point where they start to like you and trust you. They invest with you. They start to see the results. They start to see the returns. And all of a sudden, you now start to get the referrals. And the referrals are really where the gold mine is, because if you can really get to the point of somebody really wanting to refer people to you, it's a big, big step. And that's what all of you should be shooting for, is getting to that point of them being able to start referring to you. All right, so let's talk about compliance for a little bit. So let's see. We have talked at length about how to stay compliant on other episodes of the webinar, but a couple things I wanted to talk to you about is if you're going to join a group or partner with a group and all you do is raise money, it can be a big issue. There's some groups out there right now that are being investigated because of some potential, broker dealer issues. I don't know all the different nuances or different things around it, but the SEC, if they get word that something's not being done properly, the SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States. That is the federal government body that kind of is overseeing the sale of securities, which if you're doing a JV, a little bit different. I'm not going to get into the nuances there, but if you're doing a true syndication, you're selling securities. And so if you're selling securities, you have to either be with this types of stuff. The two most common ways to do it is to have an exemption for registration with the SEC, which is a 506B as in Bravo, or a 506C as in Charlie. And there are, depending on which one you have, depending on which one you register with, will depend on certain things that you can do. For example, if you're doing a 506B as in Bravo, you are not allowed to advertise the deal. So you can't make Facebook posts about it. You can't go on LinkedIn. You can't put a billboard up. You can't put an ad in the newspaper. It has to be only people that you have a prior substantive relationship with them prior to you getting into that deal. And so it's a very important distinction there. Again, I'm not an attorney. I don't claim to be one. So you definitely need to make sure you have a really good SEC attorney to make sure that you stay compliant. But if you're doing a 506C as in Charlie, the 506C as in Charlie is one where you can advertise. So you can advertise anywhere you want, but the nuance is that with a 506C, you can only accept accredited investors, and those accredited investors have to be verified. So they have to submit a document from their CPA, their attorney, some other type of licensed professional, or they have to go through and submit documents to a third party like verifyinvestor.com, where they actually verify their income. Because to be an accredited investor, you have to have one of two things. You have to have either $1 million of net worth, not including your primary residence, or you have to have at least $200,000 of annual income if you're single, $300,000 if you're married, and you have to have had that for the last 2 years, and you have a reasonable expectation for it to continue during the current year. And so that's how you become an accredited investor. So there's nothing special about it. It's just those are the criteria in order to be an accredited investor. So it's an extra step that your investors have to go through to verify that they're an accredited investor when you do a 506C as in Charlie. Now, when you do a 506 Bravo, the 506 Bravo is one where you don't have to do the third-party accreditation. You have to do a self-attestation that you are accredited. And if you're not, you have to self-attest that you're a sophisticated investor, a non-accredited sophisticated investor, which means you have the ability to make financial decisions about that particular investment and you have experience related to it. And but in the 506 Bravo, you can only accept up to 35 and non-accredited investors in those opportunities. But 90% of the opportunities that are out there are usually 506 Bravos. About 10% of the 506 Charlies. And again, I might be talking over some of your heads right now, but if you go to our YouTube channel again, and you can search in there securities or SEC, you'll find other webinars. We actually broke down each one of the laws that pertains to the 506B as well as 506C, and then also even broke down even further the tier 1 and tier 2 for regulation A, which is a totally different level, but most people don't get there because it takes too long to put the regulation A together for doing single one-off deals. Now, if you're looking at doing a fund, it might be a good opportunity for you to try to do something like that. All right, so let me go ahead and open it up for any types of questions that you might have. There might be a few questions about a few things. So if you have some questions, you can type them in there. I know there's a couple of them already in here, but I will go ahead and get those addressed, and we'll answer a few more questions here. Probably take another 3 or 4 minutes to do that, and then we'll wrap it up. And let me see if we have it ready yet for the next week. Let me type this refresh box here. 1 second. Let me type in this. Let's see. I don't have it updated yet. So let me just go through here. All right. I should partner with other members of your master group. We are currently in a conversation stage. Most of this social social media post, let us know, get the conversation started while we comply with it. So right now, Carlos is asking, I recently partnered with other members of your mastermind group, and we are currently in the capital raising stage. What's the best initial social media post to let others know, get the conversation started while still being SEC compliant? So you can't say anything about your deal if you're a 506B on social media. So absolutely no social media post do you want to have about that. It's a big, big no-no. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't be bringing anybody onto your investments and in your deals unless they already had a relationship with you prior to that, right? Prior to that investment. So right now, only the people you currently know should you be bringing into that 506 Bravo. States Regalio is saying state securities boards may also launch an investigation in addition to the SEC. That is absolutely correct. So we talk about the federal government, right? The SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, but every state has their own version of the SEC, and that's a state version of the SEC. And you can even be investigated by them, and they know about your registrations because that's called the blue sky laws, right? You have to actually register your investment in every single state where you have an investor. Now, don't think that's it's hard for you to do because the attorneys take care of all of that. You just pay them their fee. They take care of all those filings and making sure that you're staying compliant with that. So you don't have to worry about doing all that paperwork yourself. That's why you have a really good attorney for. But that's what you want to do right there. So let me see if I can refresh this screen here. I'll type it. There we go. So you can see on the screen here, I just changed this, or actually Melissa just changed it for me in the background. We have our webinar for next week as I finish up some of these questions. Broker relationships for apartment syndication is next Thursday, August 13th at 12 p.m. Eastern. You can see we're going to talk about how to find brokers, first steps in building broker relationships, what you need to do to maintain your broker relationships, and when is a good time to ask for off-market deals. So make sure you register for that. I will go ahead and type it here into the chat box so that you actually have it. If you want to go ahead and register for that today, right now, you can, and you can go ahead and get on the list for that next one. All right, so here is another question that's coming in. What was the fifth out-of-the-box idea that you said you're trying now and getting some success with? So, Derek, I was wondering if anybody was gonna ask me about that because I completely did not even cover it, and I did it on purpose to see if you were paying attention. So, good question, Derek. All right, Derek. So, the fifth one of the out-of-the-box ideas is learning to fly. Learning to fly an airplane, and again, you're gonna have some financial resources to do this because you're gonna have to, have the ability to have some money to be able to learn how to fly. But we're doing it right now. Actually, myself and one of our partners, Brandon Abbott, we're actually we actually have acquired an aircraft. It's actually a 2017 Cirrus SR-22 G6, one of the latest models. And so we're actually acquiring that airplane, and we're learning to fly. And it's going to allow us to be able to have a lot more conversations with people in the aviation industry, which it already has started to do that. Be able to fly to different FBOs, flight-based operators and operations to be able to meet other people. It's also going to allow us to be able to open up and go to fly to different areas where we have different investors. It's just, hey, we'll go fly out there in the morning, go have a cup of coffee with them and fly back in the afternoon, right? Or maybe do a couple of different spots around a certain area, being able to just fly there. The investor could pick you up and go get a bite to eat and kind of get to know them a little bit and take them around and let them take you around a little bit. So that's one of the things that I would highly encourage you to do. It looks like Derek said, ha, no, beep. I'm doing that right now. So good thought there, Derek. It's a great idea. We've started to do it, and we are already seeing some results with it. We're taking delivery of that new aircraft that we're getting next week, actually. So we should be getting that next week. I'm going to be flying up to the north a little bit, Midwest, I guess, if you will, and picking up that aircraft, flying it down next week. And there might be some schedule changes as I had to be flying that around a little bit more, but that's definitely an out of the box idea, is to learn to fly, to be able to pick that kind of stuff up and learn how to be able to get in front of other high net worth investors. At what point do you bring on a broker to help raise capital? Joe, I have never used a broker to raise capital. I do know that there are some groups that use brokers. You usually have to have a lot more room in the deal, because the broker dealers, usually you'll charge you about 6% of the money that they bring in to be able to raise the capital. Otherwise, it's not worth it to them. So they won't even give you the time of day. Let's see. What are your observations on quality mobile home parks as buy and hold and multifamily investments? So when I don't actually do any investments in mobile home parks, it's not really because of returns or they're good quality or bad quality. For me, it's been more of a mindset issue that I don't really want to own mobile home parks in my portfolio. It's just hard for me to be proud of a mobile home park. And so I only want to have investments in my portfolio that I can be proud of. And so I just have chosen not to own a mobile home park for various reasons, for that main reason right there. I know several people that have mobile home parks. They like them. They use them. They actually syndicate them. So it's not like it's a major issue to do that. Let's see. At what point do you as a financial bank or family office to help raise capital? Obviously, we're talking about now institutional capital, Joe. So when you try to move over to institutional capital, it's a whole nother level. And the only point that I would say that you could really get to is once you have probably at least 2 to 3 years of success, and you have 2 to 3 years of track record, that's what they're going to want to see in order to put their institutional capital with you. Now, they're going to want to have a lot more return. So they're going to probably have to give up some more of your GP percentage to do that, but that is an option. But you got to start, you're raising money from individual investors first in order for one of those types of institutions to be able to want to give you money. What is your definition of high net worth? So I would go back to Arthur, the definition of an accredited investor. So what's your definition of high net worth? An accredited investor. So somebody who has at least $1 million of net worth, or they have $200,000 to $300,000 of annual income. Let's see, how many flight hours are needed before you are allowed to fly on your own? So in order to get your private pilot's license, it's about 40 hours. And in order to do that, many times, most flight schools that you go to, you're going to have to probably get between about 60 to 80 hours of flight in order to get your private pilot's license. And that's just for the first level, which is called VFR, Visual Flight Rules. But then there's the next level, which I highly recommend everybody still do. It's called the Instrument Flight Rules, which is IFR, which is what we're doing. And but there are people in the country that will do an accelerated program, where it only takes you like 2 or 3 weeks to get the VFR and like 2 or 3 weeks to get the IFR. And you can do all your hours in a shorter amount of time and get it done a lot faster. Or you can do it slower. Just kind of do it over time, take 6 months, 9 months, a year to kind of do it. If you do it in the 2 to 4 week, 5 week time frame, you're going to be spending like full-time efforts flying that plane and learning how to fly it. Where is there a link to a broker seminar? I'm not really sure what the broker seminar is. Maybe the broker relationships. I will type it back into the chat box here again so you can see it. This is the link for the broker relationships for apartment syndication. At what point do you start a real estate fund? Joe, I think real estate funds themselves, where when you say fund, it's really kind of a fund that has multiple assets under one. I think a fund is really, from everybody I've spoken to, is harder to raise money for than doing just one-off deals. It just takes a lot longer, a lot harder to raise money for those because of the not complexities, but because of for me, like I personally like to invest in individual deals. Okay. I feel like a fund is really set up for somebody who has like $5, $10 million and they don't want to spend, 5 years trying to place that $5 to $10 million. They're going to plop it into a fund and it's immediately diversified across a bunch of different of assets. I like the one-offs because they're the operators that I like that do funds. They go into assets and asset classes that I just don't like and in different markets that I don't like. And I want to have a little bit more control on what markets my investments are going into. Bill's asking, Dan, for sweet spot commercials, seeking an equity investor is syndication required or only for larger deals north of 1.5? So the sweet spot for investors for syndication. So the difference between a syndication and a JV doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the dollar amount. It has to do with whether or not the people who are bringing money are doing anything as part of the project. So once you get to above 5 people, it's a little bit hard to justify that you have them actually doing something. So if you have, 3 or 4 people and they're all doing something, like one's managing the books, one's managing the construction, one's managing the finances, and one's the loan guarantor. Okay, those are 4 different responsibilities, but it's kind of hard to have 30 people on a deal that they're all doing JV, right? They're all doing something as part of the deal. But the moment they're not doing anything and all they're doing is bringing capital, you're now selling a security and you have to do a registration 506 Bravo or 506 Charlie. All right, I'm going to take one last question here. If one wants to invest with your 2 family members, is it better to form a JV or just create an LLC and not require Reg B or 506 Bravo? I would say if you want to invest with your 2 family members, it'd probably be better to just form a JV, right? Obviously, I don't know the whole nuances behind what you're doing, so definitely talk to your attorney to make sure things are set up properly. But between 2 family members and you're going to form a JV, all of you are going to be on the loan as a guarantor. Obviously, you're all doing something. Then you can certainly do that kind of a JV with a lot. You can certainly do that kind of a JV without any issues. But again, I'm not an attorney, so make sure that you check with them as well. All right. Well, I want to thank each one of you for coming on to the webinar today and joining us. Make sure you go to the next webinar scheduled for next week on broker relationships for apartment syndication. And we will see you here next week. Hope you have a good rest of your week and a good weekend and a good start to your week next week. Thank you so much for being here and being attentive, and we'll see you next week.